Batman 24, written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo. So, just to be upfront with you, a standard comic book is 21, 22 pages, somewhere in there. This book is 54. It's not a special number, it's just the end of the arc, and they just wanted to get it done here. So, it's going to take a while. But we open up. As last issue, we basically had the year one ripoff where he says, "Yes, father, I shall become a bat." We open up with Bruce Wayne getting his hair cut down by Alfred, getting a buzz cut. And it's like, all right, this is crazy, Alfred, but I need you with me. And he's like, oh, yes, true, sir. So then we cut to somewhere in Gotham. We see the Red Hood gang is stealing this pressurized gas, this pressurized oxygen container that's like, super necessary for whatever they're planning. And one of the guys starts to reveal like, hey, don't jostle it too much. I'm a high school chemist. And he's like, no, don't tell me anything about yourself. The point is that we're all completely anonymous here. I don't want to know nothing about you. And then one of them comes out saying like, hey, yeah, by the way, he got 7 of them last night, the guy, the Batman. And it's just like, oh, it's nothing but a bunch of fooey. There's no demon of the night hunting us down. And as they say this, we keep cutting back to the Batcave, and 2 headlights appear. And as this guy's passing up more and more cylinders, he realizes that nobody is taking them and nobody's answering him. So he comes up, and we see that all the Red Hood gang have been tied up in the shape of a bat onto a billboard. And he goes up to the last guy, Batman, and he's like, hey, my bat still needs a head. And he starts to run away, and we get a recreation of the cover to Detective Comics 27, with Batman taking the guy in a headlock as he swings on a grappling hook. So that's that. We then see some time has passed. Batman is in the newspaper, and Red Hood 1 is talking to a couple of his goons saying, just the thing Scott Snyder loves to talk about, like, oh, the city of Rome had all these special concretes and whatnot. It allowed the buildings to blah, blah, blah. Point being is that there's this new special type of concrete that is made out of sand, and it is even stronger or whatever. But he wonders how it tastes, and we see him filling the mouths of some of his goons with it because they are basically disloyal or something like that, and he kicks them all off the edge of this boat and says, yeah, we're going to show that this city is built on nothing but sand, and therefore it is totally able to be toppled. Ha ha ha. So Bruce and Alfred are looking over the map of all of the places Red Hood is hit. Seemingly it's random, but they realize that there's a bunch of like highly necessary chemical stuff that's mixed in with seemingly random thefts, and it's the random thefts that are the ones that we need to ignore because they're just noise. So at that point, he's like, okay, I need a better view of this. I need to know everything they hit. So he goes to Wayne Enterprises and talks to Philip Kane. And Philip's like, oh my God, Bruce, I thought you were killed in the explosion of your apartment. And he's like, yeah, I've kind of wanted to pretend to be dead. That's why I didn't like the fact that you outed me. And Philip's like, yeah, no, sorry about that. But like, whatever you want, I'm totally in. Red Hood gang, I let them in thinking I could control them. Clearly I was wrong. And now they've branded me. And he has the numbers Red Hood 341, 347, like branded onto his chest now. So Bruce says, oh, geez, I'm so sorry. But like, I need access to the system so I can see what they are hitting. And Philip says like, yeah, no, for sure. Take whatever you need. Get as much info as you need. And then he shows Bruce this big rock in the middle of the office. And he's like, this came from Gotham's bedrock. And I carved it out here as a reminder to blah, blah, blah. You know what it is. And he basically asked Bruce, why'd you come back? You could have just stayed dead this time. You didn't have to come back here. Why are you back again? And Bruce says like, oh, I just couldn't. There was something keeping me there. And he points out, like, it was Alfred, wasn't it? Alfred managed to pull you out. And he's like, yeah, So we cut back to the openings of what this Batcave will be. It's just a bunch of laptops and a ladder leading down into it. And Bruce points out, with access to all of these things, they know now exactly all the things that the Red Hood gang has been trying to get. And he points out, like, pay attention to this place specifically. We don't get to see it, but Alfred's like, oh no, that would mean, and Bruce is like, yes, exactly. We know what they're going to do, but I just don't know how to stop it. And Bruce says, like, yeah, I don't think Batman is really going to be able to do this. I don't think he should. This is a job for somebody else. And we then see the police now have a little corkboard with Batman stuff on it. And again, officer comes in saying, Commissioner Loeb, you need to check this out. Bruce Wayne is giving a talk, and he's talking about the Red Hood gang. And he's like, okay, well, whatever. Go send down a few officers. Send Gordon down there. He's a piece of crap. Screw him. Send Gordon. So all the news crews are there talking to Wayne, and Wayne's like, hey, I've got a monologue for you. Why do you guys stay in Gotham? This place clearly sucks. It's overpriced. It's now, like, awful to live in. I'll tell you why I live in Gotham. It's because this city used to challenge you to be better. But now, because of the Red Hood gang, it just scares you into submission. I refuse to let that happen. And I cannot overstate how much I am cutting out of this because it is, like, so dense. But regardless, he says, yeah. Here's the thing, Red Hood, they've got a plan. It's going to happen here at Ace Chemical because I figured out that Red Hood is making a chemical cocktail of a radioactive flesh-eating poison that is going to set around the city all over the place. And they're probably going to do it soon, like tomorrow. And so at that point, the Red Hood gang starts firing off little pocket rockets, and Gordon rushes in to push Bruce Wayne out of the way. So there's this giant explosion, and Bruce is like, all right, Alfred, it's time. So he runs into Ace Chemical. The cops also try to follow afterwards. And as he makes his way in, he sees just how many of these canisters are ready for deployment. He's like, oh, God, this is awful. And there's a gun aimed at him behind his head, and it's Red Hood 1. And he's like, yeah, it is. You don't know the half of it. So at that point, all the doors are shut before the cops can make their way in. And Red Hood 1 is like, Bruce, I'm impressed. Yeah, I thought we killed you. Clearly we didn't. You're pretty good. You're pretty awesome here. And then Red Hood 1 explains everything. Like, yep, nope, this is all. I'm going to tear this city down. There's not going to be any resistance because nobody's even going to see it coming. Also, I'm going to blow up Ace Chemical once all the trucks leave and the cops will still be inside. So double win for me. And apparently he wants to do it tomorrow because it is the anniversary of the death of the Waynes that day. So he wants it to be this thing of like, yes, that's where Gotham started to decline and where I was born, and now it will be here where the city ends as well. And Bruce calls him out, just being like, you stupid nihilist. No, you know you stand for something, even if you're just pretending not to. And he's like, all right, well, we'll see how all this goes. And then as he's about to pull the trigger on Bruce, all the lights go out, and we have a police chopper overhead talking to Gordon saying like, oh yeah, it's out for like the whole neighborhood. Wait a minute. It's out for all these blocks that are in the shape of a giant bat. And so at that point, we get into the fight scene. Red Hood gang puts on some night vision goggles, which show Bruce just standing there, and they go to grab him, but then one by one they get picked off, and then Batman swings down and says, I've got you, Mr. Wayne, and drags him away. And now at that point, all the lights turn back on. The Red Hood gang is blinded because they're wearing night vision goggles, and that gives Batman enough time to go up and start fighting them. Want to point out that there's a single panel here where Red Hood 1, you can tell it's him because of his cape, is like either pulled or steps behind a pillar, and we see that his hood is off. His like little cylinder hood is off. So at that point he looks over, he sees Batman, and he's like, ooh, hi there, Batman. So he puts his helmet back on, and we just have a whole sequence here of a bunch of people manage to get Batman cornered. He ties them together with a grappling hook and throws them down a stairwell. And then as they start coming down the stairwell again, he retracts the grappling hook and throws them all back up again. So he's more or less taking care of the entire Red Hood gang. Red Hood 1 has a pistol aimed at him. It's about to shoot him, but then Red Hood 1 gets shot in the head by one of his own gang members. Turns out it's 347, which is Philip. And he's like, no, no more. I won't let you do this. And so Red Hood 1 just shoots 347 over and over again. And Batman hears the number and says, oh no, oh God, tell me it's not too late. So at that point, their explosions start going off because some chemicals got into the bombs. He goes over, Batman, to Philip, and it's like, oh no, it is you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have been able to save you, but Philip's already dead. Red Hood 1 starts making his way to the trucks, trying to get out what they can. Alfred has locked all the doors. At this point, Jim Gordon shows up, and he's got a gun to Batman's head, being like, okay, don't move. You are under arrest for, vigilantism or whatever. But Batman pulls out his own little, grappling gun, which had a rubber tip or something at the end. I don't know. And he just knocks down Gordon and says, yeah, you need to step back. And we see that a pillar collapses right where Gordon was going to be. So Batman just saved his life. And then Gordon's like, okay, well, regardless, let him go. We'll focus on the Red Hood gang. Get everyone you can out of here. Batman makes his way to the roof where we see Red Hood 1 escaping on a helicopter. And Batman makes a jumping leap enough to grab hold of Red Hood 1's foot, pulls him off of the ladder, and they both fall back down at Ace Chemical. So a little one-on-one fight takes place. Red Hood 1 hits him with a beam. Batman snaps his ankle, and the platform they're on starts to collapse. And there's a big vat of chemicals beneath them. Batman reaches out a hand saying, hey, the railing's not going to hold. Give me your hand. And Red Hood 1 says, no, that's no fun. It's not over yet. And he lets go of the railing and falls down into the vat of chemicals, obviously becoming the Joker. So that's where it ends for Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's story, but now we have a Scott Snyder / James Tynion IV story, art by Raphael Albuquerque. We show the stereotypical clock that opens up to go down into the Batcave. We see that Bruce has set up multiple huge screens down there, and Alfred calls him out being like, are you sure the screens are big enough? And Bruce is like, Batman doesn't need to be subtle. So they explain how they did the night vision looping footage thing to show Bruce Wayne getting taken away by Batman. And he's like, yeah, that should keep him off of my trail for at least a week. But they'll figure out that Bruce Wayne is Batman eventually. And then Alfred's like, well, it's a good thing they caught Red Hood 1. And he's like, yeah, well, maybe not. Because the guy they thought was Red Hood 1, named Liam Distal, turns out they found his body in a bucket full of lye outside of Amusement Mile. And because of the deteriorating nature of lye, they couldn't identify whether he's been there for several months or just a few days. So there's no telling when the switch happened between Red Hood 1, as we've known him in this book, and the guy who would eventually become the Joker. And that's why I pointed out that little panel where he gets yoinked off screen. I think it's that. But regardless, Alfred points out being like, oh, well, there's so many possibilities there. You're practically picking multiple choice. So Alfred then points out saying oh, Master Bruce, you say that they're going to find you one day. You say they're going to know that you're Batman. But here's the thing. I was an actor, and I spent so long trying to figure out the proper way to deliver things so that they didn't see that it was just me, an actor underneath. But what you need to understand is the movie Prestige. And Bruce is like, what? And he doesn't actually say that, but he basically then paraphrases it saying, the audience wants to be fooled. The audience wants to believe that you are this character. They're not going to look under the mask on their own. They want to believe in this bigger than them thing that they can believe in. So yeah, they're going to let you be Batman because they don't want to know who you are underneath it. And Alfred and Bruce share a hug, apologizing to each other for being such dicks recently. And then all of a sudden, there's a call out to Gotham over the TV, and turns out it's Riddler. And he just straight up says, yes, it's me. It's Edward Nygma, but you can call me the Riddler. I'm going to make you smarter, Gotham. Here's Duolingo for you. First is a riddle. Two sisters, each gives birth to the other. Who are they? And it seems that Batman knows it. He's like, oh yeah, it's the Sphinx's second riddle. It's the lesser known one. One sister says, I am the day, and the other says, I am the night. And you could tell he puts the little Batman voice on that. And then Riddler says, well, bring on the dark night. Get it? And then he blows up like a bunch of buildings, and then all of the power goes out all across Gotham, except for Riddler's screen. And he says, all right, Gotham, you're going to have to outsmart me. You need to show me that you're learning something, or else the city dies for real. So let the games begin. And so begins 0 Year Dark City, rather than Secret City. 54 pages to get through that. It's a dense book, but I mean, it was good. It was a solid, I mean, it gave us all the little flashbacks, all the little side stories where it's like, see, we're doing the Red Hood gang, we're doing the Chemical Syndicate thing, we're doing the literal cover to Detective Comics 27. It's all here. It does feel like a little love story to that stuff while also having it be its own thing. I like the idea that this one took the time to say, yes, no, the Joker did fall into the acid there. That was definitely him. But, like, was he this guy that we've been following this whole time even? I like that. It adds up that little bit of mystery to it. Art's great. Writing's great. We're setting up the next bunch of books, so we'll see how that turns out. Overall, it's a great issue. I don't really have a problem with it. It's a good way to wrap up this part of 0 Year. So I'm going to give this one I'm going to say 9. I'm just going to give it the 9. It might be a bit too much for some people. It might be a bit leaning too heavily into, the Joker's origins and all that. And I got to admit, the thing that's really holding it back for me from even getting higher than a 9 is, Jesus Christ, we spent like 2 full pages on, here's how Gotham's bedrock works, and here's how concrete works, and here's how, like, I don't care about that stuff, Scott. I understand you did your research. You really have this point you're trying to make with scientific facts. But, like, as soon as you start telling me the chemical composition of Gotham's bedrock, you need to strip it back a tiny bit. But I'm still going to just give it the 9 because it is a great issue regardless.